Hello, you're welcome to yet another edition of my opinion on Clevenard TV. As usual, my name remains Franca Idemudia. Today we'll be discussing politics. We all know it is a season of politics as Nigeria gets ready to migrate into another section of life itself. But before we bring our guests on for today, I'd like to talk to our viewers one more time that if you're here and then you've not signed up on Clevenard.com, you are missing a whole lot. If you're here, you want to blog, you are a good blogger, and you want to blog and then have the opportunity of sharing to more than 10 other social media platforms, Clevenard.com is the right place for you. Or you own a restaurant as a vendor, you want to sell whatever you have to sell your products as a restaurant owner or as even a food buyer, log on to Clevenard.com. It's a whole world of entertainment, information, shopping, and so much more. Thank you so much for that. And we welcome you back to the main topic for today, which is politics. Today, we are going to be discussing the NNPP, the New Nigerian People Party. And with us this morning to talk one or two things about the party is the National Publicity Secretary of the party in the person of Dr. Agbo Gilbert Major. Doctor, you're welcome to my opinion.
Thank you, Franca. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
So how is it Lagos today? Should I say how is Lagos today?
Pardon me?
I said, should I say how is Lagos today? Or is it how is Abuja today?
Abuja. I'm speaking to you from the party headquarters in Abuja. I'm in Abuja. I'm not in Lagos.
Yeah.
Abuja. Yeah.
It's a good one. So good to have you on board.
Thank you.
It's all right. Now, I would like to start with this interview with this. You've been a politician at the forefront of political issues in Nigeria. You've worked among politicians and all that. Can you just give us a brief history of your terrain, your movement in the political arena in Nigeria?
Oh, what a great question. Well, my journey into politics, even though right from when I was a student, I was deeply involved in students' union politics and all of that. But the actual time that I started real politics was in 2001. Democracy returned in 1999, the Third Republic, and between 1999 and 2001, we were looking at the possibilities of getting our party registered, the New Nigerian People's Party, which is an offshoot of the National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders, an umbrella body for professional freight forwarders operating at all the entry and exit points out of Nigeria. Having put together a very large number, we now felt that to make freight forwarding practice more professional in Nigeria, we needed to be within and around the corridors of power so that we'll be able to influence decisions as to how to further, enhance the operational acumen of freight forwarders. Before you know that they were simply referring to them as clearing agents until we came on board to say, no, that's very, very unprofessional. That what we needed was to put these guys together, get them, more professionally trained so that they won't be referring to them as mere clearing agents anymore. So we did that, taking advantage of the number of registered freight forwarders within the Nagaf enclave. We did that, and then when we looked at the conditions for registration of political parties, we discovered that the size was large enough, and the spread was also good enough for us to, transform into a political party so that we'll be able to put both freight forwarding together as well as, take deep part in decision-making processes, especially as it relates to the activities of freight forwarders. That's how we set the ball rolling to ensure that the party is registered. We sought for a good name. And looking at the difficulties we're facing as a country, we just felt that what was then and still on the lips of every Nigerian is the need for a new Nigeria. So we coined that name and then put in all the documentation, then applied to INEC. And the request lasted for about a year. And during that 1 year, instead of lying idle, what we did was, to become part of what was then the National Democratic Party, NDP. And we operated as one major arm of the NDP for about a year until December 2002 under the Abel Gubadia-led INEC when we were eventually registered, And since then, I've been very active in the operations of the party. I started as Director of Administration I was there for a couple of years. From there, I became the Deputy National Secretary, and then much later, the National Secretary, where I served the mandatory and then the constitutionally approved 8 years, and stepped aside in March this year to become the image maker of the party. So that has been my history, in politics. But largely, it has been political party administration. I haven't really been involved in the real field politicking, but just the policy side of it, party administration, as well as development of policies that would guide candidates as they go about, canvassing for support to be able to win elections, to, administer our manifesto. So that has been my history.
It's all right. Now, I want to come in this way. As someone that have been right at the middle or the center of the political parties and all that, would you say political ideologies, okay, and manifestos have affected the democratic process of Nigeria?
Well, under a sane arrangement, democracy, which is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people, the delivery of dividends of democracy and all the other aspects of democracy are supposed to be guided by the ideology of the party. One, the ideology is the blueprint, the guiding principles that guides the operations of the party. The ideology is the belief, what the party stands for. That is what is called ideology. Every party has an ideology that is distinct. Then, when you talk about manifesto, that's the blueprint that guides, the party once in power in the area of delivery of dividends of democracy. So these two are very serious, documents, very serious things that should ordinarily guide the operations of a political party. But as you and I know, as the black race is concerned, well, we have seen since the return of democracy in 1999, we've seen a lot of parties, go out of their way to do things that are not even compatible with the ideology of those parties, at least the identifiable ideologies of those parties. We've also seen parties go out of their way to do things or engage in programs or activities that are clearly outside the manifestos with which they went to canvass for support. And the parties that have led us in the past are classical examples of this, the PDP, the 16 years of the PDP. I can tell you authoritatively, even though I haven't been a member of PDP before, but the activities were clearly not guided and directed by the same document that ordinarily they should have been guided by, guided with. So we saw them doing a lot of things that were not permitted by their manifesto. We saw them do a lot of things that were clearly outside their ideological leaning. And then it's the same thing we're seeing with the APC now. They came, according to them, they had the opportunity for Nigerians to be part of governance, for Nigerians to be part of decision-making process, for free education and all of that, and then maintenance of security and so on and so forth. But what we're seeing today is clearly out of those things that you and I know were the manifestos, or rather the piece of document called manifesto, on the strength of which they campaign. So to answer you directly, while ordinarily, like I said, in an ideal situation, every political party is supposed to be guided by what it has as ideology. It's also supposed to be guided by what it has as a manifesto in the event that it takes power. But the two parties that have led us in the past have clearly departed from that. But an NNPP government would ensure that that is reversed, and then we're back to the manifestos, which is the social agreement between you and the ordinary people. The social agreement between you and the electorate is what is called the manifesto. It has built into it so many things that you intend to do as a party in the event that you capture power at any level. So we'll do that. We'll ensure that the proper thing is done. But so far, it's not been too good, But like I said, the two parties are culpable of this.
It's all right. You are here representing the NNPP. And you've just said what you just said. You just said that we have parties coming up with these ideologies and manifestos, but at the end of the day, what they promise the Nigerians are not actually what Nigerians get at the end of the day. Now, how do you want Nigeria with what NNPP is proposing? Now, how do you want Nigerians? What are the things you say to every Nigerians out there to make them believe that at the end of the day, when you come into power, your ideologies and your manifestos will be adhered to?
Thank you. Very wonderful question. First, the ideology that guides us as a party is what we refer to as democratic liberalism. That's a system where everybody is part of the decision-making process of the party. you know, but whether you are physically challenged, whether you are financially handicapped, we have no tolerance, we have zero tolerance for those who come to hijack political parties. And so we've been guided by that all along. Every Nigerian who is a registered member of the party or who is in one way or the other sympathetic to the cause of the party has been part of the decision-making processes of the party. And we have continued to tell Nigerians that if we have given you this opportunity, after in 21 years of our existence as a political party, you've been part of us all along. We have listened to you. We have taken your suggestions into the central decisions we have made in the past and all of that. Then you can be sure that in the event that you entrust us with power come 2023, it will be a replication of what you have enjoyed so far for the past 21 years, which is your active participation in the decision-making processes of the party, irrespective of whatever form of disadvantage you suffer. So we have been doing things differently from the other political parties, which is all-inclusiveness, everybody is involved in decisions. Apart from that, we have also done things that are clear departure from what the other parties have done. We've given women very central role in the administration of the party. We have also provided opportunity for them to pick up nomination forms, you know, to run for elective offices across all levels without any form of hiccup, without any financial requirements attached to it. We have produced youths, you know, encourage them to come on board to take the country's destiny in their hands and then ensure that the country is put back on its track working. We have produced, as I talk to you now, it's a record that the NNPP has the youngest lawmaker in the country after the 2019 general election. The boy representing Bauchi Central in the State Assembly, by the records of INEC, is the youngest lawmaker in the country today, and we produced him. So what I'm trying to say is whatever we practice or whatever we preach as contained in our manifestos, in our ideological framework, is what would transform into the larger society. Not to talk about the overwhelming problems of insecurity and all of that. Of course, no government thrives in an unsecured environment, and no economy works, you know, when there is no security and all of that. So we'll make security our priority because we strongly believe that what every government owes its citizens primarily is the security of those citizens as well as their properties. So we'll be guided by this. All these are built into our manifesto. We want to ensure that coming into power in 2023 will remain guided, you know, effectively by what is there in the document. Because as far as we are concerned, it's on the strength of that we're talking to Nigerians, and we'll be guided by that.
It's all right, sir. At the end of this, towards the end of this interview, we're actually going to come to that, which is the security aspect of it and how it relates to 2023. But for now, 2 months back, we actually heard that the NNPP and the Labour Party had the talk of a merger. Okay, but at the end of the day, we discovered that, okay, the merger wasn't possible. We don't even know what happened, but that most Nigerians are actually interested in knowing what actually happened. So the alliance break and collapse, what was actually responsible for it? And would you say NNPP has come out stronger than it was after the collapse?
First, we have been able to identify the fact that His Excellency Rabiu Engineer Dr. Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is the standard bearer of our party in the 2023 election, we've discovered that he has become a problem, you know, he has become an issue, you know, he has become a threat to, you know, the power blocks in the country. And so the people from all directions, you know, and then groups have continued to ensure that whatever he's involved in or whatever are the talks the NNPP, which is his platform, is involved in, they have to look for one way or the other to see how they can thwart it. And that was exactly what manifested in the case of that proposed alliance. It was never a merger. We didn't at any minute consider a merger, because a merger requires a lot of things. You know, a merger would mean that one certificate has to go down for the other. Either the Labour Party goes down for NNPP or NNPP goes down. It becomes one party on the ballot paper. So we never at any point looked at that, looking at the time frame that was available for the discussion. What we were looking at was some form of alliance, you know, where P2B would, by our proposal, P2B was expected to have resigned, even though we were going to work closely with the Labour Party. P2B was expected to have resigned his candidature, his presidential candidature from the Labour Party, and then join us as vice presidential candidate of our party, that's the running mate of His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. But that was never to be, because there were a lot of fifth columnists all around it, because anything that involves His Excellency Senator Kwankwaso, you know, politicians are seriously afraid of it. So they felt that that coalition or that arrangement would have made the job even easier, you know. And Nigerian youths were all over, even up in now, saying that if that had happened, you know, by 12 noon, they would have been done with the election, or that we would have gone to sleep. There wouldn't have been any need to run around to campaign or something like that. That's what were the feelings of Nigerian youths were. But then, those who do not believe that this country should make progress, those who are seriously and still afraid of His Excellency Senator Kwankwaso, didn't want that to happen. And then they set the ball rolling until they were able to disrupt it. The crux, the main issue was that by our proposal, you know, P2B was expected to be vice presidential candidate to His Excellency Mohammed Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. But at a point, after we had done some discussions, we started on a very good note. But at a point, he came to say that that is through his people who were talking with us at the committee level. He came to say that the general feelings of the Southeast people was that he shouldn't be vice to anybody. He should be the presidential candidate instead. And we also said, look, His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has a large pool of followership, you know, that no other politician has in this country, even those who have been presidents in the past and all of that. What His Excellency Kwankwaso has as followership, they don't have it. So we were now, and the people were insisting that we can't have you, we have the strength to deliver you, but it will be easier if P2B joins you. But in the event that he fails to join you, we have the numerical strength to deliver you, and so we can't fold our hands and watch you become vice presidential candidate to P2B. So that was the stalemate, that was the standoff. We tried to see how we could reactivate the talks, but we discovered too that a lot of people that were involved in the discussions had already predetermined minds that they weren't going to let it work. And that's why recently on a TV station, I said it clearly that we were taken aback when a key person, a key actor in that discussion came out even a month before the talks broke down to say that ab initio, he never believed it was going to work. When the two principal actors themselves gave it everything that was required to make it work. Somebody who was on the side of what, you know, so it's what I'm trying to say is that talks was sabotaged literally, so that we'll continue to maintain the status quo from where a lot of them are benefiting.
Yeah, and again, I think some exponents actually wanted Senator Rabi Kwankwaso to vice Peter Obi. So how did he go with the party?
No, that's what I'm telling you, that left for the Southeasterners, what their proposal was that they must take a shot at the presidency this time, and so His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso should be vice. But that was not the position of the northern voters. That is the Rabi Musa Kwankwaso's large followership. That was never their position. Their position was that we thought that this were possible, but if it is not, we'll go all alone. We'll have what it takes to deliver it. That was what resulted in that stand.
Okay, and then when that didn't happen, there are so many people that actually came up and then they made the assumption that the reason Kwankwaso refused to vice Peter Obi smelt of tribal rivalry. What do you have to say about that?
Just without wasting so much energy on that, I will, you know, dismiss it, because these are social media miscreants. One thing that Peter Obi has going for him is that as if he planned it ahead, he has a very large crop of social media actors, you know, and these are actors whose support will not in any way translate to anything positive on election day. I think they are just paid to continue to stay around the social media, you know, to blackmail His Excellency Mohammed Musa Rabi Kwankwaso and his platform, which is the political party for which I speak, the New Nigeria People's Party. So I don't need to dwell too much energy on that. I don't need to dissipate energy on that. What I can tell you is that's just the imagination of mischief makers who ab initio set out to ensure that that understanding never worked. So just ignore it. Just dismiss it just like a pinch of salt. It's nothing to worry about. It's just cheap blackmail, and it's because they are literally afraid of the reputation and the standing, the political stand of His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso.
It's all right. Now, as it stands now, as it stands now presently, without the alliance and all that, now, how strong is NNPP ready? How strong and structured are you guys ready for the 2023 general election?
Well, one of the things that most Nigerians do not know is that before the entry of His Excellency and his two organizations, the TNM and the Kwankwasia Group, NNPP existed across the entire 6 states of the Federation and Abuja. No doubt their entrance helped to strengthen the structure, but the structure did exist. It was existing. Of course, you could see the muscle with which we came out to hold the last two conventions. The convention that ushered in those two groups on March 30th of this year, and then the presidential convention, where he emerged as a flag bearer. That was a convention that was held at the National Stadium, with very large participation. No, Nigerians never gave us a chance until when they started seeing those, they say, we had thought that this party was a small one, but it's clear that they are no longer small. So I can tell you that they are, without P2B, ab initio, when we set out on this journey, nobody knew that anything was going to bring Labour Party under the leadership of my good friend, Barrister Abure, our way, though we are friends. Nobody ever gave any inkling that we're going to be having any discussion as to how to work together along the way. Nobody also gave us any inkling that P2B would become Labour Party presidential candidate and that he would be meeting us at the point for discussions on how we can work together. So we were set to go all alone. We are still set. We have the spread. Nigeria belongs to NNPP. The youths are there. The women are central in our policies. So we strongly believe that, yes, if he had come, fine, but now he's not here. So we're looking beyond the Labour Party and their presidential candidate who are moving on. And I can tell you that His Excellency Mohammed Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is the candidate to beat in 2023.
Thank you so much for that. I like the confidence with which you said that. But now, let's look at it from the perspective of every Nigerian out there. Now, we've heard these kind of promises over and over again. The last time we heard of a change, and the whole world, the whole Nigerians rose up and said, yeah, we need this change. We came out in mass and then we voted into power. The president really in class, hoping that there will be positive change for the entire Nigeria. But at the end of the day, are we really seeing that change? We are not. Okay. Now, how are you so sure that Nigerians will believe when Rabi Kwankwaso comes up again and says, okay, I'm going to make or affect these changes when I come into power? But why are you so sure that Rabi Kwankwaso would make the necessary change that Nigeria needs?
In 2014, on the way to 2015 general election, politicians, the promises were made verbally. There were no, like we started by saying that there were no recourse to the provisions of the manifesto of the political parties, especially like in the case of APC. You could see them each time they go for rally. What you see is them dancing, making promises that they knew they were not going to keep. Ordinarily, in advanced democracies, what you do is you don't talk too much. You only refer the people to that document because that is the binding document between you and them. So before now, even the PDP 16 years, all the elections they had, which they claimed to return them to power, successively, there were just verbal promises that were made. But now we have changed the face of campaign by telling Nigerians to go right into the depth of our manifestos. We don't want to tell you things that there will be no binding document through which you can hold us responsible. What we are telling Nigerians is our manifesto is up to date. In fact, we just updated it so that it would be able to capture the present situation on ground as a country. We just updated it about 2 months ago. We're telling Nigerians that we don't want to come to campaign grounds and make promises and dance and tell you tomorrow security challenge is over. Next tomorrow you will be living as if you are in America or look. They just hold us by what is in this document that we're giving to you. It is the social contract between us and you. You can see that that is a clear departure from what we've had in the past. The APC, for instance, in the course of campaigning, I don't even know, as I talk to you now, having been a leader of a political party for the past 21 years, I even don't know if APC has anything documented that you could call manifesto. I also don't know if PDP has anything documented that you could call manifesto. But our manifesto as a party, NNPP, is everywhere. Even in the most remote areas, people can access it. Even online, you can access it. And you will see that from time to time, it is tinkered with so that it would capture the situation of things as the society changes. So we are saying that we want to be held responsible, you know, you do a checklist based on what is in that document, and then as we hit the ground running to deliver, you'll be ticking. At the end of the day, if we are not able to do 99% of it, you can now hold us back. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we have had series of promises in the past that never translated into anything. And so it is difficult now for a political party to go to the electorate and say, we want to do this, we want to do that. So on the strength of that, we decided to change strategy by doing something that no party has done before. We already have something documented, which you can put under your pillow, which you can put even inside your box. By the time you bring us to power in February 2023, what you need to do is to dust it and put it on the table and every day open and see if we are following it or not. So that's a strategy that has never happened before. And you can see that that is a tidier strategy, because at least from the document, Nigerians can say, okay, you said you would do this. When it gets to agriculture, you will do this. We can see you have done this, you have not done this. And they will be able to, you know, checkmate us on that, you know, because power is with the people and it's their responsibility to checkmate the activities of the government they put in place. So this is one thing that is new that we have introduced, and we believe that Nigerians should be, on the strength of this innovation, give us a chance, since we are not there dancing on the podium to tell them lies that eventually will not be possible. The APC danced everywhere and said in 6 months there would be electricity everywhere and the economy will be revamped. In 6 months, the Boko Haram thing will be a thing of the past. But it heightened after the
All right, so I'll come in this way. You made mention of your manifestos and all that, and saying that at the end of the day, if you are unable to keep up with your promises, that the masses can actually rise and then take you on your ways. But now let me really look at this. Does the voice of the masses actually count when it comes to governance in Nigeria?
Whether the voice of the masses counts?
It counts, yeah.
That is the consciousness we want to awaken. But as it stands now in the past, because of electoral malfeasance, one, the process that throws up leaders is not.
So sorry for the break in transmission. We still have in the house with us Dr. Gilbert Agbo of the NNPP in Nigeria. Now, you just answered my last questions. Okay, but now I want to it can be like that.
Okay, other parties to join us.
It works both ways.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, let me start by saying that again, this boils down to the philosophy of the party, the ideology, the manifesto, which is centered all around the all-inclusiveness. So, you know, politicians will always want to be where they would be able to do what their mind says they should do to assist their constituents and all of that. What is missing in the other parties is the opportunity to be part of the decision-making process. You know, parties where one or two people would just be firmly in charge, dictating to every other person what should be done within those parties. So what is attracting them to NNPP is due to our policy of democratic liberalism, where everybody has a say. You know, and in the past 1-2 months, of course, you have records of high-profile defection into our party. You know, sitting senators. As I speak to you now, we have 4 sitting senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and about 16 House of Representatives members sitting in Kogi, in Kano, in Katsina, and all of that. Then State Assembly seats, over 60 of them, you know, that are already members of the party. The question is, what is attracting them in? It is because of the liberal nature of our policies, and then the opportunity we give to everybody to be able to find an enabling environment to deliver on whatever he or she wants to deliver in terms of dividends of democracy to his or her people. That's on the side of people coming in. But on the side of people going out, I think I am not aware if we have lost even one person. But if you have records of 1 or 2 that probably may have gone, the answer I can give to you is that maybe they now feel that we have become too serious as a party, or that they came in with the mindset that they would find in us what is found in APC and PDP, where people just come to dictate what they want, and they got in here and discovered that that is not what is tenable here. The simple thing to do is to walk away. You know, in democracy, people are allowed to move around. So coming in, yes, the influx is heavy, the traffic is heavy, but going out, except one or two, which I can't even remember, except you have to remind me. You know, you journalists, you know most of these things, we don't know them.
We are not angels, but at least we still get one or two information. It's all right, Ivada, we understand that. Okay? All right. Okay, now you guys are getting ready for a fresh primary within the party. Can you tell us what led to that and what we Nigerians had expected after the fresh primary that you are having?
Well, answering you on that, first, the Electoral Act 2022 has amended. In the past, once a candidate is filed in, by the closure of the first window, which is the time you file in the candidates, remember that there is room for substitution. There are some conditions, they are clearly stated out there. Death of a candidate already filed in should lead a party to, bringing in a replacement. Then maybe a candidate becomes capable to move around, to be able to campaign. He would also be asking to be replaced. Then some willingly, maybe for want of resources to prosecute the campaigns, somebody would come and say, I thought I would have this from here, but it's obvious that it's not coming. So I won't be able to get along with you and all of that. These are the conditions that are permissible under the law. And in that case, the procedure is simple. The person whose name is already domiciled in INEC would write a letter of withdrawal, voluntary withdrawal to the party. The party now fills all the required forms for INEC and attaches a copy of that letter that is addressed to the national chairman, informing him that candidate A, candidate B, candidate C intends to withdraw. Once that is done, everything is put together and then sent to INEC. But in the new Electoral Act 2022, a fresh primary election is required. Before now, in making substitution, in changing candidates, you don't need a fresh primary election. In the Electoral Act 2010 that we operated on recently. But in the new Electoral Act, the Act says if a candidate withdraws, you have to inform INEC within the next 14 days and then conduct fresh primaries. That's the reason for the fresh primaries you see going on. It's not as if they are fresh per se, but they are primaries, that are being conducted so that we can have replacements for candidates who had already been filed in INEC, but for one reason or the other are unable to continue as candidates. That's what we're doing. And the whole idea is to bring the best. The party is also looking at the quality of those candidates. The candidates, because of the faith they have in us, and because of the need for them not to become clogs in our progress, because this party is clearly on a fast lane in terms of development. We can't wait until we get to power to be able to, administer our manifesto on the people and then deliver dividends of democracy to them. So those who, with high morals, who also have seen that, there's this speed, I won't be able to cope with it and all of that, who have voluntarily written to the party to say we're withdrawing. We are also trying to see that they are replaced within this short period. So if we are doing that exercise, this exercise based on what I've told you, then Nigeria should expect that at the end of it all, which is, I think, sometimes towards weekend or thereabout, we would have a more formidable team, a more formidable thing running for, the various elected positions. So Nigeria should expect that we're going to come out stronger and with even relatively more stronger candidates, to go into the election.
So I wish you all the best in that. And then my last question is going to be on insecurities. I know you like to make, you almost mentioned it at the onset of the interview, and I told you to hold on. Okay, now we've been besieged by different kind of insecurities all around us, that even Nigerians at times are afraid to sleep. One is afraid to travel, you're afraid to do things that you normally have felt at liberty to do in your own country. So many things happen and all that. Now, insecurity as a whole, how does your party intend to come into this and then curb this trend if voted into power?
Yeah, it will be a multifaceted approach, but our central attention will be on the people themselves. The best form of security is centered around the people themselves. You could put together the best security apparatus anywhere in the world and put together the best security arsenal anywhere in the world. It will not give you the result except the people are deeply involved. Those who perpetrate this, reside with the people, they live with the people, they operate around the people, and the people know them, and so our approach would be that what Nigerians have not done before. Of course, we've seen lip service. We've seen this government repeatedly say that people should fish out those who commit crimes from within their environment and all of that. But it doesn't translate to real action. What we are going to do, getting into government, because we know that we can't make progress except we have security, effective security, entrenched. So what we are going to do is to ensure that the people are deeply involved. We are going to carry out massive campaigns from village to village, from community to community, on the need for the people to be able to identify those around them who have questionable characters, and then provide, they will be deeply involved in providing the raw information. Unlike what we have now, where the police goes to look for this information themselves, sometimes even forcefully, sometimes even with money. We are going to challenge the populace to come out with information that the police or other security agencies would process and make them actionable. When we do that, these challenges, which you and I, if we have to talk about it, will be on air for the next 2 hours. It's overwhelming. You are in Port Harcourt. I'm in Abuja as we speak now. For you to get here, you have to go and fly, because before you get to Aba, you would have been seized, madam. So we want to make sure that this is a thing of the past, so that our economy can be revamped and business activities can begin to thrive again. And the only way we will do it is to challenge the people themselves, to be able to get rid of this. They tried to do a semblance of it in Zamfara, where I saw the governor challenging traditional rulers, or even deposing some of them, for harboring criminals and not forthcoming out with their information. You ask yourself, why will a traditional ruler who is vested with the authority to lead people want to harbor a face that is clearly destabilizing his domain? So that is to say there is no commitment, on the part of such persons. But what we will do first is to make Nigerians believe once again in Nigeria as a country, instill that Nigerianness in them, and that will naturally bring out the patriotism. And with this patriotism-driven orientation, they would be able to, and then willingly come out with information that would make this job of curbing these security infractions a very easy thing for the party to do. This is one of the major things we will do. Outside the other things, we won't be asking police to put blocks and logs of wood on the road to disturb people, and then they end up not checking anything. As a party, we will never do that. We also won't be asking the army to go and block roads when their constitutional role is clearly that of defending the territorial integrity of the country. So we won't be doing that. Those things are just not acceptable. They merely inflict pains on road users and all of that. We'll also be relying on the use of camera, which is what the party has preached repeatedly in the past. When the insurgency began, I remember personally, as the national secretary of the party that time, making a proposal that what is tenable in North America could also be tenable here. You could plant devices on the roads that would, as the vehicles run across them, if there is anything funny, maybe some funny explosive devices and all of that, the vehicle containing it, would be picked up by those devices that is laid on the road. It's there in US, you can check through, and then the information is sent directly to the information point somewhere, and the vehicle is apprehended and searched, and whatever is in there is brought out, and the people are, apprehended and eventually prosecuted. So we'll be approaching it from that very tactical and innovative angle, not the crude thing we are seeing now, which is subjecting Nigerians to very unnecessary pains.
That's all right. So now the mouthpiece of NNPP, okay? And then you are their voice, and then the Nigerians look up to you to hear what they actually have for the entire nation. Now, what will be your last word, okay? Your last word for the populace of this nation. First, I always tell Nigerians that the power is with them. Forget about the few elites that have continued to maneuver their ways, and then manipulate them using ill-gotten resources. The power is with the people. So at a time like this, the first thing I would want to tell Nigerians is that the INEC registration process is still on, to enable them to obtain the PVCs. The power is with the PVC. The efficacy of the PVC is never undermined. So I would, number one, urge them to, approach any registration center or unit that is close to them to ensure that they get their PVCs. And those who are registered in places where they don't intend to stay and vote in 2023, there's also a window for them to be able to relocate their cards. If, for instance, you are registered in Abuja, but this time around
you want to determine who is governor of Rivers State, all you need to do is just to transfer your PVC to Rivers State so that you will also not be left out. That's two. Then the third thing is that we have no country than it. We are challenged. The series of challenges we are faced with has further strengthened us and given us more energy. The youths will need to stand up and take their destiny in their hands, take back the country, take back the government, make the government accountable to them, and only that, if that is done, will we now sit back comfortably to say that there's a future for our children. And I always conclude by saying that when our children grow up and they get to look at history, my son or my daughter would say, my father at a point was the spokesman of one of the political parties. But what we have seen today is a complete mess. What did he really do? So we owe them that. We have to ensure that we have a country that they would inherit. We have to ensure that we have an economy that works for them as they grow up. If not, history will not be kind to us, and even our children will not forgive us by the time they grow up.
Yes, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert Agbo. It's good having you on my opinion on Clevenard TV this morning. And we do hope that at some other times you'll be our guest once again and things about your party with us. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so, viewers, we've come to the end of our program today. We do hope you've learned one or two things, and as we get ready for 2023 general election, wisdom should be available to each and every one of us to decide what is right and what is wrong for this country. Okay, now I will still want you, I said it earlier, but I will still want to bring this up. If, for example, you are a blogger, you know how to blog very well, take advantage of Clevenard.com. Come on our site, do everything you want to do that, and I assure you that as you blog on a particular page, you have the advantage of sharing to more than 8-9 other social media platforms without extra cost to you. All right, if, for example, you're a vendor, you own a restaurant, or you order foods from restaurant, come to Clevenard.com, make your sales there, buy foodstuffs, buy things there. See, believe me, it's a whole new world of everything that needs to make your life comfortable for you. So we'll come your way next week on My Opinion. I remain Franca Demudia, saying goodbye from you. Bye.